Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome back to the GBC SPT page. We're so happy to be with you this morning, at least here in America. It's Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. We hope you're having a wonderful celebration of Krishna Janmashtami, Nandotsav, and Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja, whichever phase you might be in now. And especially, we're very happy to have Mother Cintamani with us today. And personally, I can say, really with affection, Mother, because she is the senior most Prabhupada disciple at the temple where I joined in Detroit about 10 years ago when I met the devotees. And she's so much nourished my Krishna consciousness, and her stories, they're hidden gems of our ISKCON community. So I was really happy to be able to invite her onto the page today, and she graciously accepted. So good morning, Mother Cintamani, and thank you so much for being with us. Happy Vyasa Puja.
Jai, what an auspicious day. Can I just say, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanamne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pucharane Namaste Shasunivari Praskacha Dashtali Vancha Kalpatubhischa Kripasindu Bibacha Patitanam Pavnivo Pashavena. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hari Hari Bol. So we only have about 45 minutes, Mother Cintamani, and you've got 45 lifetimes worth of pastimes to tell. So I know we're going to be able to bring you back. But today, why don't you share first just how you joined Krishna consciousness, where it was, of course, that very special experience that you had. Well, I won't spoil it, but why don't you go ahead and share the kind of early days of your Krishna consciousness, and then we'll shift over to Japan, where we'll kind of focus on for the rest of the discussion.
Sure. I would also like to say, before I forget, that Srila Prabhupada was in Tokyo for Vyasa Puja and Janmashtami 50 years ago. So, incredible. And just to show how fast the Hare Krishna explosion was happening, I was a freshman at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, and one devotee came down for Jumya, and I had actually I was a Christian, but I'd been searching for God and the truth for about a year, very intensely. I'd become a vegetarian. I was reading Paramahansa Yogananda's books, and I also was following Dr. Mishra. And when Prajumna came down, that was the first devotee I met, and it just so happened that he had just opened a preaching center in Columbus, Ohio. That's where I'm from. So because I had went to the university in the summer, fall, and winter, then in the spring, I was able to be at home at my parents' house, which was only about 10 minutes away from the temple. So he was the only devotee I had met. And then it was in April, I started going to the classes in the evening. I was the only one from Columbus that was interested really at that time. And so then he said, why don't you write to Srila Prabhupada? So in April, I sent a letter, and I got a letter back from Srila Prabhupada April 29th. And he said, you're a great devotee of Jesus Christ, and we're also devotees of Jesus Christ. And you can increase your love of God by chanting Hare Krishna. So I started chanting Hare Krishna to a picture of Jesus Christ, because at the center in Columbus, we didn't have deities. And Srila Prabhupada said, when I come to Columbus, I'll be able to talk with you more. So I was actually initiated a little over 2 weeks later when Srila Prabhupada came to Columbus. He came because Allen Ginsberg had the famous program where we had a wonderful kirtan at Ohio State University. Now from there, Srila Prabhupada went to New Vrindavana for the very first time, and I was able to go at that time and be with Prabhupada for about a month, and at that time clean his room and do some service like that. And at that time there were no single women at New Vrindavan. So we decided I would go to Los Angeles because that was the large temple doing something called Sankirtan. And so I went out to Los Angeles. And at that time, I keep saying at that time. Anyway, Vishajan Swami was leading the Harinam Kirtans, and we'd go out twice a day. And one devotee would stay back, usually Kartikeya, he was the cook. And it was just really great. There was rumors going around that Srila Prabhupada wanted the women to get married. And I wasn't really interested in getting married, but we didn't even talk to the brahmacharis, quite honestly. We all lived in the temple. And one day, one brahmachari came up and said, I'm going to Japan to open a temple, and I need a wife. Do you want to get married? And I was in shock. And I just said, ask Srila Prabhupada. And then we got married. And Bali Mardana and Sudama went to find a house in Japan. And then I went, and I wasn't sure exactly what month, but it must have been September or October. So that's within 6 months I got initiated, married, and went to Japan. And actually, I have all the letters here. These are called air letters that we used to use.
Huh.
My mother saved all the letters. And this first letter is dated October 14th, 1969. And I'm already saying that there's 28 people coming to the Sunday feast.
Huh.
So
Wow.
that was Hare Krishna explosion. At that time, there weren't that many temples. We had a temple in, besides the United States, we had a temple in Montreal, London, a center in Germany. So we had the whole world to open temples. Oh, the reason Sudama wanted to open a temple in Japan was because, well, he had also been Srila Prabhupada's servant, and he had heard that Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada had landed in Japan, I don't know where he was going or coming from, but the Srila Prabhupada said, I want a temple in Japan so much that whoever goes, he would come and take them back to God at the time of their death. So Sudama wanted to go. We didn't speak Japanese, and that was a problem, but that wasn't like a lot of people were volunteering to go to Japan at that time.
Yeah. So at the time that Japan was opened, it was one of the few international temples outside of America.
Yes, and when we went, we had no contacts whatsoever. We didn't know anyone. We didn't speak the language, and we didn't hardly have any money.
And so how many devotees, yourself, you mentioned Sudama, Bali Mardana?
Yes, us three went to Kyoto.
Huh.
We went to Kyoto. Kyoto was very traditional back then. Most people wore kimonos, and we had a very nice little house. So we just did what we did in Los Angeles. We went out on Harinam Sankirtan, and we had Sunday feast. Sudama had been Prabhupada's cook. He's a very good cook. So then we would invite people back.
And as you mentioned, Srila Prabhupada actually came to Japan on his Vyasa Puja day, 50 years ago now to this day. What was that experience like? What was Vyasa Puja like, celebrating with Srila Prabhupada in person?
Okay, but I just want to tell one more thing about Kyoto.
Oh, sure.
They decided that they wanted a larger place and to go to Tokyo. And now you've got to understand my parents too. All of a sudden, I'm in Japan. I've dropped out of college. All of a sudden, I'm in Japan and married. and I'm 19 years old.
Yeah.
So my mother sent this person that was like a grandfather to us, that Mr. Richards, to see what was going on.
Mm.
And it was really Krishna's mercy because it was starting to become winter and I needed a coat, but we didn't have enough money, so he bought me a coat. So then we moved to Tokyo, and we did the same program. Harinam, and Tokyo is the best place to do Harinam. There's so many people.
Mm.
And I will tell you that how we became a little bit famous was we were on a TV show. It was all Japanese. I don't know what the show was. And we were also, am I looking at the right place? I've never done this before.
Oh, yeah, you're doing great. You're looking
Okay.
right at the camera.
Okay. And we were in a magazine.
Mm.
So after that, when we went out on Harinam, people would point, Hare Krishna. It would happen all the time, Hare Krishna. And we would go a lot of different places, like Ginza was one of the main places, Shibuya, Shinjuku, if we were walking. But if we were just setting up to do Harinam, then we would do that there.
Wow.
Okay. So Prabhupada came. Brahmananda came in because all the magazines were printed in Japan, Dinapan, and we got the Back to Godhead printed in Japanese.
Mm.
I knew enough. I only knew a few sentences of Japanese, and I would chant, and then there'd be a big crowd, and we could sell a magazine, and then they'd start talking in Japanese. I'd go, Nihongo wa karanai, I don't speak Japanese. And so then we got message that Srila Prabhupada was coming, and you've got to understand how every temple wanted Srila Prabhupada to come to their temple, and we wouldn't know where he was going next. But to come on Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja, and not only was Srila Prabhupada coming, he had just done a sannyas initiation. There was only a couple of sannyasis. And so he initiated Madhavisa Maharaj, Kartikeya Maharaj, Devananda Maharaj. They were all coming with him, plus Tamal Krishna, who wasn't sannyas yet, plus Kirtananda. And we had this tiny, tiny little place. So when Prabhupada did come, I had to sleep out in the car. I was the only Mataji, so no one was talking to me. I was like all these sannyasis. And so when we found out Srila Prabhupada was coming, it was very exciting. And we had gotten Lord Jagannath. Can I show a picture? This is
Jai Jagannath.
These ended up to be my deities. I still have them, but these were the first deities in Japan.
Wow.
That's another story I won't get into right now. But so anyway, Srila Prabhupada came, and it was so wonderful. I hadn't seen him for a year. And when Srila Prabhupada would come to a temple, everything would just seem like everything's okay now. And so I was looking at the Lilamrita, and it didn't mention, but I also was cooking with Kirtananda and Kartikeya for Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja. Now the kitchen was so little. If you were at the sink, you could just turn around and be at where the burners were without moving, and very small fridge. But we managed to make a feast, and then you'd always be wondering, did Srila Prabhupada like it? And back then we made quite elaborate feasts, samosas, gulab jamans, sweet rice, which now when we had feasts and the Japanese people were coming, I don't know what it's like there now, but we found out they didn't like sweets so much. We'd always have all these gulab jamans left over, and I'd be eating like a bowl full of gulab jamans. And so when Srila Prabhupada came with the sannyasis, it was really wonderful. They had to find a little apartment for him. And I was in the kitchen a lot, but I think they were reading the Krishna book part-time at the apartment he was at. And it was a nice celebration. And the next day, was Vyasa Puja. Now, we had made a Vyasa-san, which back then we didn't have anything ornate from India. It was like, wooden box type thing with cloth, and then a real nice pillow was made with Japanese kimono material. And we had the homemade altar that was covered with red satin with Lord Jagannath, and then pictures, and then the place to offer the prasadam. So Srila Prabhupada came, and we knew we each had to read our offering to him in person. Now, this was 1970, and there is a small Vyasa Puja book for 1970 with individual devotees, because there weren't that many devotees. And I don't have a copy. If anyone has a copy, I really, really would like to see it. So we read our offering. Everything's going nicely, kirtan, everything. And then this is, well, a lot of people know about the fiasco that happened. Well, Srila Prabhupada, it was time for offering pushpa, and nobody knew what pushpa was. So, can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you, yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So someone had the bright idea it was rice, because we used to have this pushpana rice. So there was a big pot of rice cooked. It was time to offer the flowers. And we have a pot of rice. And Prabhupada, he wasn't happy with that. So he actually left before the ceremony was over. And it was really, really sad. We thought, oh no, this is terrible. I looked at all the older devotees, and they looked so depressed. I thought, is my spiritual life finished now? What's going to happen? So they went over, and they did talk to Srila Prabhupada, and I remember that he said that he had just initiated all these sannyasis, and no one had come to him and asked him the proper way to do the Vyasa Puja ceremony. And he said that, I'm paraphrasing this, but it was something like, if the leaders don't get it right, there's no hope for the rest of the society. But he said we could do it again the next day. So the next day we did Vyasa Puja again. And when Srila Prabhupada came, he looked really happy. Like nothing had happened, and that was a relief. So, very merciful.
Right. So pushpa, and you guys made pushpana rice. Is that what it was?
Some kind of rice. No one asked me. It wasn't my idea. I know.
That's funny.
Yeah, pushpa. No one knew pushpa was flowers. So. And then we also had a engagement in Kobe. There was a lot of Indian people. I don't remember how many, 100, 200. Before Srila Prabhupada, they were all sitting down looking at the stage. Before Prabhupada spoke, there was a Mayavadi sannyasi giving a talk, probably in Hindi. I didn't know what he was saying, but he was talking on, and Srila Prabhupada was getting upset. So I can imagine he was probably saying the ultimate truth is impersonal. And I was there. Prabhupada looked at Sudama, and he said, "Stop him."
Wow. And
Sudama, he looked around, and he took the kartals, and he started a kirtan, and everyone started chanting. And then Srila Prabhupada got up on the stage and gave a talk. I know that's kind of
wow.
That was intense. That was intense.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada visited Japan one more time, didn't he, while you were there?
Yes. I wonder if he came again, but in 1972, Srila Prabhupada came. We had moved to a larger place. It was a farmhouse, and there were pine trees and bamboo forest all around. It was beautiful. It gets very cold in the winter. It snows. It doesn't snow as much as Detroit, but it snows. I remember we had to wash our clothes by hand. there was a fountain outside, a little hut outside. We didn't have a shower or anything like in America. You have, a little hut outside, and I would wash my saris and hang them up, and they would, in the winter, they would freeze, and it would take 2 or 3 days for them to defrost. And I remember it got really cold for a while, and the pipes froze, so we had no water. And there was a creek nearby, and I would go and get buckets of water and bring them back to cook and to wash dishes. And also, it was so cold that I had to put the fruit, like oranges, in the refrigerator. You could see your breath. It was colder than the refrigerator. We just had a kerosene heater that really smelled bad too. So that coat that he got me, I wore it a lot, even inside. So Srila Prabhupada came the second time, and other devotees came, like Shama Sundar and Nanda Kumar and what's his name? Kurandar, Trivikram. I can't remember who else. So there was little cottages in front. Srila Prabhupada stayed in. I had to go down the street to an inn. There was like an inn that I stayed in. And we had, actually in Shama Sundar's book, he said I went to the airport, but I didn't go to the airport because I remember I was waiting. I was waiting for Srila Prabhupada to come. And there was kind of a long gravel sidewalk. So I saw the car and I stood up there. Now by this time it had been 2.5 years and I had no women association. It was a little difficult.
Terrible.
So anyway, when you see Prabhupada, everything's okay then. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada saw me and he was walking up the driveway, and he just said, Chintamani, Chintamani, thank you very much. And I felt like I could stay here forever. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
We had a lot of Japanese people at that time coming. And so when Prabhupada was there, they all had a flower. They all went up and they gave him a flower. And Srila Prabhupada said that these Japanese people were very nice. He was very happy.
And what were the ways that you were attracting the local Japanese crowd? You had a farmhouse, so is that kind of outside of the city, or would you go into
it was outside the city, but we had a lot of the regular people coming, like Bruce. Bruce had already went to India. Bruce became Banu Swami. Bruce was, I think, from Canada, but I haven't seen him since he left, but now he's a guru. And so we had the Sunday feast. We had a lot of people come. We had chopsticks, and everyone sat and had prasadam. And we still did Harinam. I will say the most difficult thing for me is sometimes I had to go out by myself. And I'm an introvert, and I was really shy because when I was growing up, I had a speech defect, and people would laugh when I talked, so I could never talk to people. And you know how it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sorry.
It's sweet, don't worry.
But can make the dub speak. But so I had to go out by myself sometime, and I did it for Prabhupada, and I would chant. I have cartels, and I would chant. There, a lot of people would look. Like that would be in Ginza, and then I would have the magazines and sell a magazine. So, yeah.
No wonder Prabhupada said thank you when he saw you. Harinam by yourself. One person Harinam party.
I just saw Abhiram give a little talk and about something he had done, and he said, if you gave me $1 million today, I wouldn't be able to do that. And I would start laughing because I feel the exact same way. The only way this even happened was Prabhupada's mercy.
Mm. Mm. We have a few minutes, and you were with Srila Prabhupada in many other places, so maybe you could share some memorable exchanges and experiences you had with him in those other places. And Japan was kind of just the beginning for you.
Actually, I had the most association in Columbus and New Vrindavan before Japan.
Mm.
And that was the best highlight of my past 50 years because there was only a few devotees. And I got to wear Srila Prabhupada's clothes. And at that time, because I had been searching for God and I had read the Bhagavad Gita, and when I saw Prabhupada, I knew without a doubt, this is it. And he was a pure devotee. He was an associate of Krishna. Prabhupada, I think because at that time, the mood I was in was, I didn't want to hold anything back. I was much better devotee than I am now. Anyway, I didn't want to hold anything back. I just wanted to surrender, and things just happened really fast. So in Columbus, I was still living at my parents' house, and so Prajumna the house was about a 3-story house. So I moved in when he was there. Dasi, that was Hari Griva's wife, was upstairs, and there was I don't remember this girl's name. She was really crazy, but she was initiated from New York because she always said she wanted to be like Bob Dylan in her next life, and she always wore bell bottoms. And I can't. Her name began with an M, but anyway, she was there, and when Prabhupada came at the last minute, devotees came. Now, I'd never met any devotees before. Narayana came, was building a altar at the last minute. Lambangala Tika came with Dwarkadish, her son. Shamadasi. I learned how to put on a sari. Mm-hmm. And actually, my mother had 6 Benares silk saris in a drawer at home. And when I got initiated, she gave me 2 saris, and Kirtananda goes, "Where did you get that sari?" Because we didn't have anything like that. And wow. I said, "They were at home in a drawer." And he was like, "Oh, my," just shook his head. And so I got initiated, and at that same initiation, which Prabhupada performed the initiation, no one else knew how to do that. At that time, Arundhati married Prajumna. She came from Boston or someplace. And another boy got initiated. I don't know where he's from, Chaitanya Dasi. There might have been one other person, but Srila Prabhupada performed the initiation ceremony. And then, of course, we had the incredible kirtan at Ohio State University, Hitchcock Hall, with 2,000 people, as Allen Ginsberg said, jumping out of their skins, chanting, learning. This was in May of 1969. So as they picked up on the Hare Krishna mantra and started chanting, everyone went crazy. I have never been to a kirtan like that. I was shaking. I've never experienced the holy name, and these little things like this have carried me through the ups and downs of my own anarthas and the ups and downs of ISKCON. Yeah, Prabhupada, he just came to give us Krishna. We were all so fired up back then. We knew And it probably seemed fanatical, but we were enthusiastic to save the world. It was naive. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, certain type of people come to me, certain type of people don't come to me. But all I knew was this is it. Prabhupada was so merciful. Prabhupada was so merciful. Okay. He amongst spiritual masters, he is very special. He could give Lord Chaitanya's mercy just to anybody with no qualification. If we were willing to surrender. So then he went to New Vrindavan.
And you followed him there? You went from Columbus to Vrindavan yourself?
There were only 2 carloads of devotees. And I was sitting in the new Jagopal had come, the new devotee, Jagopal. And he came out and I was sitting there ready to go. He said, "You can't go." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Because New Vrindavan's not for single women." I started crying. Actually, when I got married, Srila Prabhupada said, "She cries very easily, be kind to her." So, and I never cried before I met Prabhupada. Something happened after I met Prabhupada. I don't know what, but I was crying, and there was just one Indian lady named Rekha, and she went and told Prabhupada, and he said, she can come and stay as long as, he was at New Vrindavan, then I could go to another temple. So I went there, and at that time, the original temple was 2.5 miles up. There was not a road at that time. The Agasura Road was a couple years later. There's a path. And we were behind. Kirtananda drove really fast. So Prabhupada, who was, 70 or something? I couldn't keep up with him. He was up there, and I just had like a new sleeping bag my mother had given me. I'm walking. We're walking over these hills and this path you can hardly see. And I kept thinking, when are we going to get there? And when we got there, Srila Prabhupada was already there, sitting outside. And he was just looking really happy. It was a very warm May. And then Satyabhama came out with prasadam. And I was really hungry by then. So we were sitting with Prabhupada irregularly around Prabhupada, and she was serving prasadam. She came out with seconds, and she skipped me. And in my mind, I just thought, I wish I had more. But I couldn't say it in front of Prabhupada. As soon as I thought, oh, I want more, Prabhupada looked right up at me and go, "Oh, you want more?" It scared me so much. I just said yes. And I thought, he knows everything I'm thinking. And for the next couple of days, every time I saw him, I got really scared. I was going to think a swear word or something. And then after a couple of days, Srila Prabhupada, he saw me outside. He came out. He had a really big smile, and he just looked at me and said, "It is all right." And I knew he meant, don't worry about your mind. I mean, there's so many things that happened during that month. There's 3, Bhagavatika, myself, and I think sometimes Dasi, Anuradha. We stayed in the barn. They got the first cow named Kalia. Kalia was at the bottom of the barn. The barn's not there now. Prabhupada was in the little farmhouse, and we went every morning, Mangal Artik and Bhagavatam. Yeah, I got to clean his room.
And what was Srila Prabhupada, do you remember what he was emphasizing at that time? That was his first visit to New Vrindavan.
He liked it. He liked that we had a cow, and it was milking the cow. Best milk he'd had for a long time. More, self-sufficiency. He kind of looked over across the ridge like there'd be another temple. There's a picture in the Lilamrita. I know the background story. I'm not in the picture, but there's a picture. Everyone's looking at this thing. I remember Satyabhama wanted a washing machine. I don't know how they got this old time washing machine up this path, but there's a picture of it in Lilamrita, and it didn't work once they got it up there. Oh my God! So we did everything by hand. I mean, it was primitive, so we had to go down this hill. You'd have to yell, make sure no one's down there. Woman's coming or something. You know, we'd bathe in the case you got. We'd go back up this hill and be dirty by the time we got back up again. And but it was just the greatest time, and so many things happened there. I got to wash the dishes. There was a well, and there was a big tin outside on this platform, and I get the cold water, and it was so exciting because I never knew when Srila Prabhupada would be coming or going, so you're always Krishna conscious because you never knew if you'd see Prabhupada, and Prabhupada sent his servant down, and he said he wanted the pots clean on the outside also. And one time they came back from town, and I think it was Kirtananda. We've got you something special. It was something like scarring powder. I was like, oh, I was so happy. Scarring powder. And it was the best time. It was really, really simple. I couldn't live like that at my age, but it was great because we were young, and it was just great. They'd go get pokeweed and cook that for the sabji, and go pick blackberries. And we have blackberries and pokeweed, and I think oats, and simple living, high thinking. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, we have just a few more minutes to close. Are there any pastimes in mind or something you'd like to leave us with to meditate on Srila Prabhupada this Vyasa Puja Day and also going forward?
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't see any on the Facebook. Yeah,
okay.
I don't see any.
Well, there's rough times ahead, I think, and I think everyone needs to really take shelter seriously of a spiritual life. Try to help other people as much as we can. If you can be self-sufficient, maybe store up a little bit of beans and rice and things. You don't know what's going to happen. Take shelter of Krishna. Take shelter of Lord Chaitanya and Prabhupada. I mean, there's a lot more pastimes, but
yeah, leave us with one that comes to mind.
I was cleaning Prabhupada's room, which was quite dusty. He would go out for a walk, and I would be done mopping and sweeping before he came back. But one day he came back early. He had a mattress. He was sitting watching me. I was so nervous. So I think I was trying to sweep every grain of dust, and he raised his voice. It was just a little bit. Raised his voice, like, "What are you messing around for? Why don't you use the dustpan?" Something like that. And anyway, so I ran downstairs, got the dustpan, but I had a lot of tears coming down because I thought, I can't even sweep the floor right. And he was smiling. He was really smiling, like he thought it was funny. And then he had his black trunk with a picture of Bhakti Siddhanta with a garland. And he took the garland off the picture, and he held it out to me, and he said, "Here, this is from Krishna with blessings." And the whole room seemed like it was just electric. It was incredible. So,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you, Mother Chintamani. We have a few comments and appreciations. Brian Davidson says, "Thank you for sharing your service. Always inspiring to hear these pastimes."
Thank you.
Same from Nitya Krishna. Thank you. So it's been wonderful having you on, Mother Cintamani, and I feel spoiled. I can come and ask you more questions and hear more. But maybe we can bring you back onto the page, because I know. We have one question here. Nitya Krishna is asking, please share what would make Prabhupada very happy. How do we imbibe that mood that you had in the 70s, being a single woman handling so much?
Srila Prabhupada wanted us to love Krishna. I mean, he said he wanted us to read his books. He said, if you don't read my books, you'll fall down. There's a lot of books out there, but read Prabhupada's books. We read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Nectar Devotion, Ishwar Upanishad. We read Prabhupada's books mostly. Then you can read the other books. And Krishna book. And then share, because then you'll get realization. Then you want to share it because you feel like, oh, I'm so happy. I want other people to be happy. Like misery loves company, happiness loves company, blissfulness loves company. You want other people to be blissful. So, you know, different people are doing different things, and whoever you come in contact with, if possible, maybe carry some pamphlets, or just say Hare Krishna to someone, or give them a smile, or give them a little prasadam. Do whatever you can do. Pray that Lord Chaitanya's mercy will help all the Jiva souls.
Wonderful. It's a good place to close. Thank you, Nitya Krishna, for the question. Okay, Mother Cintamani, so happy to be with you. Happy Vyasa Puja. And we'll look forward to having you back. Thank you, dear devotees. Hope you're enjoying your Janmashtami and Nandotsav celebrations and celebrating Srila Prabhupada's wonderful impact on all our lives now and in the future. So please come back to the GBC SPT page. We have a couple more interviews like this with devotees who have experiences with Srila Prabhupada in places we don't often get to hear a lot about. Today we heard Mother Cintamani speaking about Japan, and also Kurma Prabhu speaking about Australia. There's some devotees speaking about Venezuela, Russia, Malaysia. So we have a wonderful lineup for you, and I hope you can continue to join us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.